Okay, now we will do the more fun part, which is the Q&A. So, who has questions? There's two ways you could do that. You can either unmute and ask me
I
with
have
your voice.
questions.
Okay, shoot.
Okay, so if I'm in the interactive collection browser, two views, and I want to see the shelf list by dates, prices, and charges, and I want to set a specific date, is there a way I can do that without using the slider?
No. And that is because if you there is now potentially the okay, so here's the deal. The data in BCA is what the data is. And sometimes it makes a lot of sense, and other times it makes no sense at all. That was the first one of those I created. I think there might be an easier way to do the data in that particular um, format as what I just showed you with the two boxes where you actually type in the dates.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to do that, I have to remake the report. So
Oh,
it's it would be wonderful to be able to do that, but I can't do it quickly. I basically have to start over and redo portions of the report to swap out because I have to create a whole new data field and then populate that data field from the old data field because that old data field looks like dates, but it's not actually dates. It's just numbers formatted like dates, which is why a
right,
slider works, but not the calendar view. So I have learned how to reformat that field to be actual calendar dates, but that means I have to rewrite the report to do that.
right.
So,
Okay,
so that's a to-do item. However, what I would tell you is if you send me, open a case with the help desk and describe what you just told me and what you want to see, I'll put that in my to-do list.
cool. Thank you.
We have a question from Susan who says, I see that the standard weeding report is for items that have not circulated for 3 years. What's the best way to get a weeding list for items that have circulated for 5 years? Okay, so you could use that interactive collection browser that I just showed and just slide the one date field back to 5 years ago-ish. Or you could use, I believe, the item list builder may be able to do that. Hold on. Before I share, I'm going to look and see items, item lists, item list builder. I know we have some weeding reports. I wonder weeding lists. Let's see if there's one for weeding lists. Oh, hey, here's an even better way. Let me share my screen. Sometimes if you dig and dig and dig, you find what you need is already created. So where I went to is shared reports, number 4, advanced reports. These have numbers in front of them so that they sort in the way that we want it rather than alphabetically. Items, item lists, weeding lists. That's how deep we are in this menu. So we're going to go back here. Advanced reports, items, item lists. There is a whole folder of weeding reports. One of those is list of items that haven't circulated in the past 5 years. I could open that up, and then I have some ability to, if I wanted to, target some individual areas by item categories or by item type or by home locations, which is item collection, that's also home location, or by call number ranges. Um, but I think your question was just things that hadn't circulated in 5 years. Let me turn the chat back on. If it hasn't circulated in 5 years, so yes, you would just go in. You could pick your library. I'll pick Astoria, and I'll leave everything else blank, and I'll just hit Run Report. And that's going to take. It's going to look at every item at Astoria with the last circulation date of 5 years ago or later. So last checkout date. Ah, look, our magic number has appeared. Last checkout date of 1/1/1900. This item has never checked out. And you'll notice item legacy charges. There's several item charge counters, but the item legacy total charges is the one that counts all the way back to 2007 when we migrated to this system. So that is the one we use because it's got the most full data. Notice this has 0, it's never circed. So The item last checkout and check-in dates are the beginning of time from the system because it's never circed. So these items that have never circed, maybe that's an interesting list that you care about, or maybe you're like, well, a lot of these are reference and I don't want these to go out because they're reference. So in this particular, these are cozy mysteries, a lot of them, and nonfiction. So does the weeding report circulation data include interlibrary loan? Yes. So how this works is the item last check-in and last check-out date is anywhere in the system that this thing would have checked out, whether it's your library or some other library, that all counts. And because of the way the system works, the system doesn't really care at the item level who checked it out. So it makes it harder to create a weeding list of items that have not circulated at your library, but maybe went out to fill a hold. There might be a way, we talked about this at our last call with Circe Dynex, and there might be a way to create a back-end limit of only things that have not circed at your library. But to do that, we have to figure out everywhere the items circed that weren't at your library and remove those from the list of everywhere where they did circ to get that. So that's an incredibly complicated report that is on my to-do list. But yeah, there have been several libraries that have asked for a weeding list of items that haven't circulated at my library. And I don't care if it's circulated outside of my library. I only care if it's circulated at my library for X number of times or years. Other questions? Again, I'll reiterate for those of you who are frustrated by the reports being sent to you in email that you can't manipulate in Excel because of this big item library code being merged. Just simply unclick in the grid menu, unclick the merge row headers, add them back, then subscribe to the report, and it will do what you want. I was looking for circulation data at our library of pre and post COVID. So, okay, so this is where I'm going to have to guess at what you mean until you tell me something different. Are you trying to figure out, like, overall, I circed 10,000 items a year in 2019, but only 1,500 items in 2020 and 1,600 items in 2021 and that kind of thing? Or are you trying to find, okay, all right, so the interactive report only goes back to 2022, and that's because the amount of data that it has in it will not work for longer than that. But let's go to advanced reports. Let's go to circulation, historical circulation counts. Oh, here's something to tell you. Current charge, those are things that are currently checked out, right? So current charge activity counts and current charge activity lists, those are items as of 1 a.m. this morning. The data is refreshed right now at 1 a.m. every day, once a day. So current charge activity are things that are currently checked out. They could also be lost or missing because those are checked out locations. Historical circulation counts are looking at how many times something is checked out or when it checked out. So let's see if there's something in here that will answer your question. I don't know if there is. As you can see, we have lots of reports because people ask us for things. Items marked as used, item use checkouts and renewals by profile last month, items circ'd last year, last month in a date range. Well, let's look at count your items circulated from your library. That is not all of them, though. Count other libraries' users that your library use. So that's not what you wanted. I'm looking for something in a date range. Checkouts at your library. If you wanted to know how many checkouts at your library from other people's, you could get it there. There's also a very nice interactive browser to give you all that reciprocal information. It looks like right now the closest we have is count items circulated from your library in a date range. Let's run that. So, Valerie, what library are you from? I'm pulling a blank. 4-star. 4-star. Let's see. Item library. Oh, you know what? Okay, this is a fun report. This is a good question. Item library code, that's who owns the item. You want to know everything that was checked out, I'm going to guess. So we're going to leave item library code alone. That means not only your items, but items from any library will be counted. What you care about is the station library. That's you. You are the one who did the checkouts. So I'm going to jump down. I'm going to click F to get to the F's 4-star. Well, I'm not sure how this is going to work. So I'm going to run this back to January 1st of 2018. Let's just be optimistic. The end date, transtat date value, I'm going to put 12/31/2024. Let's run a report and see what happens. Oh, that is not what you wanted, is it? So, okay. Here's the total since that date, and it's got a nice breakout. But this does not show you year. So now I could modify a report that would do it by year, and then I would put that year up in the page by field. What you can do for now is we can use our find data reprompt, which is the little paper in the square, and we're just going to change the dates. And now I've got to run this report a couple of times. But if all you're looking for is a number to get a kind of a wag in time of what's going on, you did basically 8,000 checkouts in 2018. Good. We're going to go back to the data menu and reprompt. We'll just change these to 2019. This is why I'm trying to write reports as interactive dashboards, so you don't have to do this. You did 8,600 in 2019, so it was a little higher in 2019. We'll reprompt to 2020 to see the devastation that COVID caused. Because I know this will be lower. All of the graphs went crazy in 2020. So, yeah. Oh, really? 7,800. That is amazing. That is amazing. I would have expected, let me do a reprompt and make sure I didn't screw up the dates. I did not. That's 2020. Your library did not get hit nearly as hard by COVID as some others did. Let's look at 2021. 6,300 in 2021. Interesting. So you could use this report. That'll kind of give you what you want. Again, if you send an email to the help desk describing a report you want, I will put it on my ever-growing to-do list, and it'll get done sometime. I don't promise much as far as a lot of this type of work for now. Until we get our staff hired, directly hired, most of my time is going into trying to figure out benefits and policies and procedures for hiring staff. So work will be somewhat slow over the next several months outside of that from me. But if you send your reporting ideas in, I will add them to the list. Reports are my fun zone when my brain is dead and I need to do something that I enjoy that is not directly related to hiring myself. reports are where I go to do that kind of thing. Other questions? Waiting for someone to type. I'm going to go look at 2022's numbers. Not. Oh, okay. Laura asks, was there a report that showed the title of the Jew book that circulated the most from the library in 2024? Yes, there is. So if you go to, this is one of the two interactive dashboards I haven't had time to post yet. This came from Laura originally asked me for a list of the most popular titles. And then about 2 days later, I got another request from someone asking for a different most popular title list. And then I got a list of um, like 10 different most popular lists based on several different breakouts. And I thought, okay, at this point in time, rather than creating a one-off report, why don't I make something everybody can use? I had a couple more within a week span. I got 4 different libraries asking me for most popular reports. So I made one. So if you go into the dashboards, I'll show you how dashboards look in the old interface. This will get turned into a link and posted on the website with the other other dashboards. But for now, if you wanted to see how it worked, if I could remember what I called it, here it is, most popular titles and authors. So we'll click on that. Okay, so this is a dashboard that runs a report first and then choose through all of that and then allows you to slice and dice the data after it runs. So this one's going to take a little bit to run here, but I'm going to put Laura's library in. So we'll go Dunlap. 1st of January 2024 through the end of January 2024 are the default answers, since most people were asking me for things in 2024. Oh, that ran quicker than I thought. This is the old version of that single click interface. It's basically all the same thing. There's a reprompt here because you might want to change the library. But otherwise, it works basically the same. And this report, I've designed this report to give you the ability to do some slicing and dicing inside of the library and time frame that you had to choose at the beginning of the report to create the data for you. So in this case, this is everything is checked. All boxes are all checked. So this is every checkout at Dunlap in 2024. Dave Pilkey is the #1 author. Is he the guy who writes the that name sounds familiar. Is he the guy who writes the Dogman books? Oh, he is. Dogman is my default search. That's why I know that name, because every library has Dogman. So a couple of things about this. Authors, you might see the same name in this author list, and that's because, like, for example, Seuss with no doctor does not sort together with Seuss with doctor. James Patterson with a comma at the end does not sort the same as James Patterson without a comma at the end. But for the most part, it does a pretty good job of finding the authors and taking all of the various titles that the authors wrote and items assigned to them and merging them into one count. The titles are a little harder because, like, this Paw Patrol title might have 10 different subrecords that all had Paw Patrol in the title, and that Paw Patrol might be capitalized differently or punctuated differently, in which case it's going to show up again on the list. So it's not absolute because it can't do merging of titles or authors unless those things match exactly. But it is better than nothing, I will tell you that. So now we could say, well, maybe Laura asked me about juvenile, we'll say juvenile DVDs or juvenile movies. What were the most popular juvenile movies? at Dunlap in 2024. No surprise, it's Paw Patrol. Here's a good example, Paw Patrol with capital PAW and Paw Patrol without capital PAW. So these two did not merge because they were not exactly the same. That's the fall down with this. You with your eyeballs, you could see that and you could merge those together. This, by the way, these lists will run forever. It will, any item that checked out in your library in that time range will end up on this list. There's a lot of data here. You can pick the number of checkouts for your library for the top 5, top 10 items. You can choose that. It's different for every library. So I just left all the data in. And then if we wanted to go with nonfiction juvenile or nonfiction movies for juveniles, there's your list of the nonfiction movies for juveniles. I get popular titles for movies or popular authors for movies, not as helpful. But I added both just because I could, basically. So this will be turned into a one-click to run report with that new kind of red interface with the red toolbar and posted on the BCA page pretty soon. And again, if I do a reprompt, I could change either the year or I could change the library. You could do multiple libraries in here. I could put all the Greater West Centrals in here and see what circulated. So it works the same with one library or many, because basically I'm removing every bit of data except for title and author. Oh, look at that. Maybe I will take out some of these filter selections. There we go. Now we've got data. So there you go. Anything that is blank, the number one catalog author is Ghost. There is no data, basically, is where that blank shows up. Instead of 1/1900, it just shows up as blank because there is no author. Goosebumps, no author added for that. So that's how that works. Interesting. Okay. Sorry, I have to stop looking at these reports because it just makes me want to dig and see what happened or what's going on. So I don't want to do that. Other questions? Who has DVDs? Is that the
The one you just looked up, do they even have DVDs that are checked out? Maybe that's why nothing came up.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I had it set to movie, so they may not have any DVDs or Blu-rays in their collection, or very few. They may not, well, specifically I had movies, fiction, juvenile, so they may not have any fictional juvenile movie DVDs. I may have over limited on that particular one. You can filter yourself into nothing. Any other questions? Did anyone learn anything today? This may be the most important question. I know I've set up a lot of BCA accounts in the last 2 weeks, so hopefully those of you who have not had the access to BCA before, or I had set up a BCA account over the last probably 10 months since we did the last training. Hopefully, if you hadn't been in there too much, this will help a lot. Again, if you've got questions, send them to us. You know, it might take us a bit to answer them, but yeah, we'll try and get you answers. Formatting, exporting the formatting is so less has to be done in Excel. Yes, that again, I didn't even know that was possible until I was writing the user guide last week. it didn't used to be possible. I know 10 years ago when I last wrote the user guide, it was not possible to unmerge and then send it out of the system. It had to be, we at RSA had to write the report without the merge fields. So I was very excited to see that you could actually unmerge a saved report and then export it out and play with it, and it would do it. And then even more excited to see that you could unmerge a report and then save or subscribe to it. And even though you didn't save the report, it still remembers that you had unmerged that field or you had swapped fields around. You can, like in those shelf list reports, if you want the fields in a different order, you can move most of the fields. The metric fields, the count type fields, those are always all the way off to the right because metrics are not data. It's a mathematical format. And in this particular product, those always have to be the leftmost fields. But like title, author, item type, call number, if you want to swap those columns, you can do that and then subscribe to the report and it will remember that. So you love the new dashboard reports? Yes, I do too. Dashboard reports have been around for a while, and I just never had the time to sink into building one. On the back end, the data that you use and the way that reports are built and the way that the reports run it's like a completely different product from the typical grid-based reports that we build. And you have to completely retrain your brain to create one of those dashboards to make it so that the data will slice and dice as you're going. And even the fact that you can set it up so that you can change the report on the fly, change the filters on the fly. So it took a while to learn how to do that. I've got one in the back. I'll show it to you all. Hold on a second. What am I sharing? Let me see what I am sharing. Oh, I'm sharing my screen. Great. Okay. Everybody close your eyes real quick because I need to log out and log in as me. And I don't want any of you stealing my login or whatever. I will show you something that I am working on that sort of works, but also sort of doesn't work. But I think it will, if we can get Circe Dynex to fix the problem on the back end, it will be really cool, a really, really cool thing to be able to show your boards to help them understand your place within RSA. One of the things I've been working on is creating dashboards that let you know about holds, where your holds are going, where your holds are coming from. Because I think, well, I've known for a long time that holds are kind of the biggest thing in RSA. As I'm getting these January surveys for the DAC back, I kind of glance at them real quick, and that is the number one answer from almost everybody who has answered those is holds are the number one thing in RSA. And if we look, 67%, I think, of all holds filled entirely in RSA come from other libraries. Peoria, I think, has the lowest percentage in the mid 40s. Of their items are filled with their own items, but almost every other library, less than 20% of the holds filled in your library are filled by items from your library. Here's the back end. You don't want to see most of this garbage. It doesn't mean anything to you. Let me turn it all off. There we go. Okay, so here's what I'm trying to create is a report that you can show your board, hey, here's where our holds are going. So this is done by zip codes because that is basically the most granular block I can throw on a map. To do this, I had to get a listing of every zip code in the US with the geographical boundaries of every zip code in the US, which is like a 15 megabyte file, and then massage that data and then upload that data so I could use it to do other things. And I had to strip out all the +4s and lots of fun stuff. But in effect, what this is showing is the library that I have chosen for this is Quincy. And what I'm looking at is Quincy's items. So these are items owned by the Quincy Library, Public Library, and who checked them out. So user library and what their postal code was, and then how many of those there were, and then kind of color coding that. So, and I'm only looking at July and June and July of 2024, I think. Yeah, 2024. Let's look at the whole year. Let's see how that does. So in my mind, you could, by the way, you can unzoom the map and anything that went out of state, like over here, or if you sent something to Wyoming, it would show up as a little colored zip code on the US map, but it makes it harder to see the other stuff. But more importantly, here's the city of Quincy. Here's their surrounding collar counties where Quincy has residents, and those are the darkest because that's where 99% of the total count of the 99th percentile of holds. So we're talking 7,700 holds filled, 4,800 holds filled with Quincy items. But look how much Quincy extends into Missouri. I didn't know they went that far, but it makes sense now that I think about it. But these are reciprocal borrowers that have come across the border and they're grabbing Quincy items. And here is everywhere that Quincy sent items to fill a hold. That's pretty cool, right? That's the kind of thing you can show your board and say, hey, why is RSA important? Well, here's a map of where all of our holds went to. And then now the problem is that this only works in this interface. You can't export it. It won't turn into a PDF. The only way you get this out right now is a screenshot. There's a permissions issue with the mapping vendor. But it is something that I want to be able to, once Circe has fixed, is to start digging into these types of reports. And because there's a lot of things you can do just with zip code data, like here's all the libraries that sent us things, because if I know the library zip code and that's the library that sent you the item, I could map that. Checkouts at your library from other libraries, right? Or from your people who came to your library to check things out in person rather than filling holds. You get a different map mostly around your library, right? But sometimes there are people who drive 3 or 4 hours and they come and check something out in person at another library. That would show up on a map like this. So I think things like this is where I'm trying to get to with this data, because A, it's kind of interesting, but B, it helps your boards understand the value of being in the consortia, which is important. That's not one any of you can run, so don't even try and find it. It doesn't exist. When I can make it exist, I will. Other questions? Stunned silence. That's either good or bad. All right. Well, seeing no more questions, you all have the help address. If you've got a report suggestion, or if you get probably what's more apt to happen is you're going to have your caps lock on and try and type in your username and password 3 times, and then the system's going to not let you in anymore. If that happens, again, just email the help desk. That'll get routed to me. I'll open up the back end and unfreeze your account. If you have people in your library who leave your library, staff members who leave your library, whether they have a BCA account or not, please let RSA know that that person has left. We are setting up, I think we already have a forum on the website about staffing, but we're making a new staffing forum because as we slowly start thinking about shifting over to individual workflows, logins, and individual online circulation logins, which is coming at some point. either because we have a new product that works online that only works with individual logins, or BCA works with individual logins, cataloger accounts are moving to individual logins. So we need to know when people join and leave your library. Right now, it's more when people leave your library. So please, if you have someone who leaves your library, just send a quick ticket to the help desk that says, hey, this is so and so from such and such library. Staff member named XYZ has left. Please remove any accounts that they may have. We will go through the system and make sure that if they've got any cases open in the system, that those get reassigned somehow to someone else in your library. If they have a cataloger account, we'll turn that off. If they have a BCA account, we'll turn that off. We can then remove them from any of the RSA email forums that they may be signed up for. So there's a lot of things on the back end that we do when we hear that someone has left a library, but we don't always know. So it's important that you all let us know. And in the future, when we have moved to everybody having their own individual login, it will be super important at that point. Because the new products are not behind a firewall. So you could use them at home. You could use them from the local county market, if you wanted to take a laptop out and circulate items from the county market. That's the kind of thing that's coming later in the year, we hope. Not behind a firewall. You don't need any Connect. It's the new web-based version of not a full workflows replacement, but a partial workflows replacement. So yeah, that would be helpful to us. Rachel says, can we send you a list of current employees and you can remove anyone not on that list? Yes, we could do that too. If you want to send us a list of current employees, we can go back through and check that. We did part of this during the parameters parties, but again, that's a moment of time kind of thing. As of this date, here was who was on staff. So yeah, if you wanted to send us a list of your current employees, we can put that aside and kind of go through it as we have time to make sure that any cataloger or BCA accounts are removed, and then take them out. It will be harder to take them out of the it will be harder to take them out of the listserv because we don't necessarily have a whole listing, I don't think, of everybody by library. But for cataloger accounts, we know by library, and for BCA accounts, we know by library. So that would work. Right. Hearing no other questions and seeing no other questions, thank you all for hanging out for the last hour and 45 minutes. It was kind of fun to get to teach again. Haven't done this in a long, long time. Hopefully you found the information useful. I will break these 2 videos up and get them uploaded to YouTube over the next week or 2. And then they'll get added on the bottom of the BCA page below the shorter, very focused how to log in, how to log out type videos. So y'all have a great day, and thank you much for attending. I appreciate it.